Brian?
Well, I'm Brian Darmy, Chief Strategy Officer for AURP, coming to you from AURP DC area headquarters in the University of Maryland Discovery District. And I've known Jennifer for a while. I think we'll wait to introduce Jennifer until everyone else introduces themselves.
Great. Hi, I'm Vicki Palmer. I'm CEO with AURP and delighted to learn today from our friends at the SBA and hearing from you all as well. So thank you all for being here today.
Then, hi, I'm Diana. I'm the Membership and Meetings Manager for AURP, and I will help kind of conduct the back end of this meeting today. And let's start. Mary Shirley and Alex Kate are coming in. If you want to introduce yourselves really quick.
Sure. I'm Mary Shirley Howell. I'm the Director of Business Recruitment at Hudson Alpha Institute in Huntsville, Alabama. My colleague Alex Kate is just off camera here. He's having lunch. He handles our business retention and expansion efforts and also the innovation ecosystem support.
Great.
Hans?
Okay, so I was just saying to some of the people, I'm completely new here and I don't know what I'm doing, but I decided last month, after 30 years with Johnson & Johnson in healthcare all over the company, to leave the company because I want to work the last 10 years of my career more on innovation. And I joined a small healthcare consultancy that is, and we're getting ready to actually start a new division on technology innovation. And that's actually because of the collaboration there that we're trying to set up with University of Delaware and Delaware Bio. That's how I got into this forum, and I'm just listening in today to try and understand what this forum does and what I can learn and how I can help.
Wonderful. Great for you to join us today. Allison? You're muted.
Here I come. I'm sorry, I'm talking on mute. Hi there, I'm Allison Madden. I'm Director of Operations for the USF Research Park, and we are in Tampa, Florida.
Great. Mary Morris?
Hi, Mary Morris. I'm Director of the Baltimore Fund at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. Support our startups in the region and in the University of Maryland Biopark.
Wonderful. Paula?
Hi, I'm Paula Sorrell. I'm Associate Vice President of Innovation and Economic Development at George Mason University. I'm responsible for all three campuses, Arlington, Fairfax, and Prince William County. I came in 2 years ago, shortly after the Amazon HQ2 announcement as part of the campus expansion in response to that proposal.
Great. Rod?
Hi, I'm Rod McSherry, also Associate Vice President for Innovation and Economic Development at University of Texas, San Antonio. And I look after Institute for Economic Development, which is a 79 county regional economic development, business development, SBDC, SBA funded operation, as well as our tech transfer and all the other aspects that usually find in the universities. One of the things we're interested in is looking at, we don't have an innovation or research park at UT San Antonio. And so we've finished our market and feasibility study, but now we're looking at what this would mean in a more of a distributed innovation hub model around the city and the county.
Wonderful. Ryan?
Oops, I'm sorry, I'm a blob today. Brian Anderson, I'm the Director of Industry Relations for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And now I have the right camera on. So I'm co-located at Nebraska Innovation Campus along with Dan Duncan in the same suite with our technology commercialization group, New Tech Ventures.
Wonderful. Stanley?
Hi, folks. I'm the Associate Vice President for Research and Innovation at San Diego State University, and I'm part of a team that's in the process of developing a new innovation district.
Great. Ece?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ece Karatan. I'm the Vice Provost for Research at Appalachian State University. App State is one of the UNC, University of North Carolina system universities. And we just broke ground on an innovation district a couple of weeks ago. So I have much to learn from this group. So I'm looking
Amazing.
forward to it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Dan?
Hi, I'm Dan Duncan. I'm the Executive Director of Nebraska Innovation Campus Development Corporation and the immediate past president of AURP.
Great. Al?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. My name is Al Salgado, the Assistant VP for Small Business and Community Development. And I think Rod McSherry kind of described some of the things that we're doing here. And we're also taking a hard drive at Innovation District probably here very soon. So Stanley will probably reach back and, and share notes. So, but good afternoon. Good to see you guys.
Afternoon. Samuel? Shannon?
Hi there. Oh, there we go. Now you can see me. Hi, I'm Shannon Pastizo. I'm from the University of South Florida, same as Allison. I'm in charge of the USF Connect, which is our incubator program for our Tampa Bay Technology Incubator, as well as our Student Innovation Incubator. And I work very closely in the Research Park area as well. So thank you.
Great. Dr. Farrow?
All right. First of all, hello, folks. I never want to miss a call. I had to step out because I have an unexpected scheduled patient. But anyway, I'm the executive director for the National Diabetes and Obesity Research Institute in rural Biloxi, Mississippi. Finished 30 years with the VA and got to come down here to help stand up a nonprofit that's dedicated to curing diabetes and obesity by working with colleagues in the area. I appreciate AURP's assistance in helping us build a university research park on this 4,000 some acre beautiful stretch of land here. So I hate that I'm going to miss this call, but I will see you guys all next time, and I appreciate all your help.
Thanks. Well, it's recorded, so you can view it.
Oh, that's even better.
Yep.
All right.
All right, perfect. Rebecca?
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Motley. I'm the manager of the Tech Commercialization Incubator at the University of Illinois Research Park.
Great. And then Samuel, I saw your introduction in the chat. You're with Rice Management Company and developing the ION District and Innovation District in the heart of Houston. So welcome everybody. Brian, Jennifer, take it away.
Well, so Jennifer, I've known her for a number of years. She's had a number of different roles, but she's now the new director of ecosystem development for the Small Business Administration, SBA. Many of you on this call are familiar with the SBA, but you may not be familiar with this new position. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned, I'm in the University of Maryland Discovery District, and immediately, the cubicle immediately behind me is the SBA office for the state of Maryland, which the University of Maryland helps manage. So many of us know about how they've work with small businesses. And it's great to see the SBA is now working with technology companies and creating innovation districts. So the whole ecosystem. So with that, Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you for sharing your information and your knowledge with our group.
Yeah, no, well, thank you so much for inviting me here, because there's a reason why you've never heard of a director of ecosystem development at SBA. And I think this is a really well-timed conversation. And so I am looking at this as a conversation. So thank you all for introducing yourselves. And this is going to be pretty informal. Please do, I'll try to pull the chat up, but if somebody's monitoring that and can flag down any questions that might pop up there, I'll introduce myself and a little bit about this new role, which will be, I think, hopefully very exciting for all of you. So I'm Jennifer Shee. I guess my history and knowing Brian throughout, I think, all of my federal career. So my background is actually, my academic background is in neuroscience and developmental neurobiology, but I also had some time with startups, and eventually I started at the National Cancer Institute in the Small Business Innovation Research Development Center there. And so I was there as a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow right when SBIR and the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs were getting reauthorized back in 2011. And so my entire federal career has been around, America's Seed Fund, that small business innovation research and small business technology transfer programs. And please, if I try to avoid using acronyms, and not assuming anybody knows anything about that's within the federal government. I would expect many of you have heard of America's Seed Fund. So if you haven't, please let me know. But for those who haven't or are watching this later, it is $4 billion of non-dilutive grants and contracts that go to support small businesses doing research and development. And that funding comes with, it's not a loan, it's a grant and contract. The federal government does not take any equity in the company. Also, the ownership of the intellectual property remains with the company. And so this is really why we think of it as a seed fund, because it's amazing to help transition that research out of the laboratory and the early research into a commercial marketplace. And one of the things that I think has been a big realization over the last few years is the invisible work that often happens from ecosystem builders like yourselves, right? That, there's often a lot of focus on the entrepreneurs and the innovators, and often the funders, but not about who it is that does the work on the ground to make all of the connections happen. I like to think of you and the ecosystem builders as creating the infrastructure and the tissue in the body and the blood flowing through to actually make all those connections. So kind of back to where I am. So I was at the National Cancer Institute and then the Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute with their small business innovation research programs. And then about 5 years ago, I moved to the Small Business Administration. And so the way the SBIR and STTR programs work, 11 different federal funding agencies actually distribute the funding, which is one reason why it actually can be a fairly complex program. But SBA serves a policy coordination and reporting role, but really we like to think about it as SBA is there to empower and support the agencies in meeting their missions through small business. And we kind of serve that friendly front door for the small businesses themselves. We're thinking and looking out for the small businesses. And so because of that, one of the key roles that SBA plays in the SBIR and STTR programs is by supporting the ecosystem builders. And so essentially the key programs, so this is all run out of the SBA Office of Investment and Innovation. And so the investment side of SBA Office of Investment and Innovation is the small business investment companies. And so they were like the precursor to venture capital. And so the innovation side is the side that does all the policy work with the SBIR funding agencies, as well as outreach and technical assistance for companies to bring new companies into the SBIR and STTR programs. And so through that, again, we really are focused on how do we support the ecosystem so that we can support you on the ground in your local areas in helping your entrepreneurs and innovators get those technologies from lab to market, really. And so the primary program, so SBA does not actually fund companies through the SBIR and STTR programs. We don't directly fund any companies. The programs that we have funded in the past are the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program. And I'll talk about that a little bit more, maybe by show of hands. And I can't see videos right now, so maybe it's like show of Zoom hand raises or something like that. How many of you have heard of FAST, the Federal and State Technology Partnership Program? And I think actually we have a couple of awardees here today. So I will definitely call on you to, maybe I'll even just pause right now and say, okay, current FAST awardees, would you like to just say a little bit about what that program is for you? Let's see, maybe Rebecca.
I'll jump in. I'm not the staff member that coordinates that, but I certainly work closely with that. Our organization, our research park, was fortunate enough to be a grantee of some of this money to provide the counseling and consulting and strategy work with all of Illinois' applicants to SBIR and STTR money. It's an excellent program. It's helped funnel a lot of people to that money and then through that to our incubator. So I'm a fan. Is that what the kind of thing you wanted me to say?
Actually, you know what? Thank you for raising that, because I actually also want to hear what you're not a fan of. It's certainly, I think having funding for the work that you're all doing is great to have funding, but I know that there are many challenges with perhaps the way that things are designed or implemented. And so we want to hear it very honestly, right? Like I think one of the things that I'm going to be talking a little bit about, and I want this to be a dialogue. I want to hear the good, the bad, the keep doing this. Maybe if you could stop doing certain things or things like that. I would love to hear it.
We certainly appreciate the funding. We were doing it ourselves, paying consultants to help our companies get access to high quality proposals. So yeah, we appreciate the funding. And now that our FAST Center serves the whole of Illinois, it's actually increased our network to some degree with startups happening across the state. So we want to keep it. So renew that, please, when it comes up, which I don't know when that is.
Yeah, well, and so I will definitely bring that up. I guess I could talk about it right now, which is the FY22 budget finally did get passed last month. And so with that, SBA received $6 million to support the FAST program. And so currently there are 32 states and Puerto Rico that are current awardees, FAST awardees, and each awardee does it, that organization does serve the entire state. And one of the tricky things about it, I think, is that in order to apply for the funding, you have to have a letter from your governor. So there can only be one organization per state that actually submits this application. Certainly, I think, because the applicant has to be serving the entire state, it's obviously really valuable to have partners across the state to be working together on these. And so to that point, we really do hope to, so the new fiscal year 22 notice of funding opportunity is not out yet, but we do expect it to be coming in the next month. So that's something I want all of you to be fully aware of, and maybe start thinking about whether if your state and I can try to in real time pull the links. I sometimes say that I'm sort of like pop-up video, where I like to throw a lot of links in chats. But it's hard to do that and talk at the same time. But I did just throw the link in the chat on sbir.gov. You can find the list of current awardees. I will say there is a focus, because we hope with that $6 million, which is the largest amount of funding for the FAST program that we've ever had since the program's been in existence. We do hope to continue funding the current awardees. and focus in on the states and territories that have never won an award or don't currently have an award. And so I can go into more detail about like who those states are, but that is going to be a focus, and I'm pretty sure I heard a few of you here. So like Florida, I think is in my mind as that's a state that doesn't currently have a FAST award. And so, certainly would want you to start thinking about like what would a Florida application look like, and thinking about how to get the governor's letter. So the other program, so I was talking about our office at SBA really focuses on supporting that innovation ecosystem and providing assistance to companies to get into the programs. And so FAST is one of the key programs that we fund and run. The other is the Growth Accelerator Fund competition. And so that one is pretty different, actually. It is, we've gotten $3 million appropriated in fiscal year 22 for that program. Historically, how we've run it is $50,000 prizes. And so those are not grants, they're not contracts. This is just $50,000 to help support your innovation R&D based companies. And in particular, we do have a big focus on how do we ensure that those who are underserved currently gain access to the program. And that's been that is kind of a guiding principle for what we are focusing on. And when I say we, that's both the SBA as a whole and also the entire federal government. So I don't know how many of you have been following, but last Thursday, every agency released their action plans, their equity action plans. And so, this is those who are underserved in many different dimensions, whether it is demographic or geographic. And so we have a big focus on how do we ensure that there's equitable access for federal resources and programs. So I'm going to pause just a second there just to see if there's any questions or commentary.
So Jennifer, this is, you said, what are some things that are difficult? And, I was at UIDP conference in Atlanta last week or the week before that, and we had a lot of HBCUs and minority serving institutions, and it's not your agency per se, but I know like the $1 billion Build Back Better and the two federal pieces of legislation, USICA and America Competes Act, House and Senate, we're going to have a 5-year plan to build a lot of more regional technology hubs between $7 and $10 billion. So a lot of money's going there. But I know and I'm not criticizing EDA because a lot of this is Congress, but in order to apply for those funds, I'm a lawyer and I read the 42-page application. And so I'm thinking if I was at HBCU, I just wouldn't even know how to start to apply. And so having some, conversation about how to make it easier a lot of people had to hire consultants, and the fact that you had to hire a consultant suggests maybe there's something wrong with the application process. So I would think in order to achieve our equitable and other kinds of things, we really need to think how can we get more institutions more comfortable with applying for these funds, because right now that seems to me to be a big barrier.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I don't know what the solution is, but a lot of research universities, the R1s have the infrastructure, and maybe it's like giving them and they can bring along the others. I don't know, but it just seems like that we need to rethink this process if we really want to, deliver more resources to HBCUs and MSIs. Because right now, I think unless they've done it before, it's a big barrier.
Yeah, Brian, that is a very strong point. This is Al Salgado, and hi, Jennifer, how are you?
Hi.
UTSA San Antonio, and I manage the network of SBDCs here throughout South Texas. And we also have a FAST program. And just a couple of comments, and to go to Brian's point, you know, the FAST program is really very supportive here in the state. You know, what we're trying to do with ours is kind of build the ecosystem of the players in the innovation space to work together, and obviously concentrate on SBIRs and STTR. But the challenges that we have, we're a large state, and it seems that resources is always an issue, because when you look at working with SBIR contractors, you know, the thing that they really need is really two things. One is a high degree of hours of technical assistance through the application process, and then through the execution of the actual grant itself till completion. So that kind of hand-holding is very rare in most of our states. So, you know, I think to look at that solution, we need to bring in the states to understand what the leverage that you're bringing to, or that the government is bringing to the states, leverage state dollars, include higher ed, because what we're doing with the FAST program is so connected to our universities. When you look at student exchange, when you look at the kinds of things and research that we're doing at universities, I mean, we've got to somehow make that connection in the application process so we can involve some of the our institutions in the actual application of this, and really to take a look at the benefit of what you're trying to do with the FAST program, because I don't think that we're really spreading the word and creating that benefit to our higher ed partners in this thing. So I just throw that out as my thought.
So if I could add, we operate the SBDC for the Commonwealth of Virginia at Mason, and the Women's Business Center, also SBA funded program. And this is gonna date my involvement with SBDC a bit. So 20 years ago, North Carolina decided to set up a tech team of people, and they and then Michigan, and I was in Michigan then, said, wow, that's a great idea. We're going to use, instead of traditional counselors, we're gonna hire people who are tech entrepreneurs. And we got, actually it was a FAST grant that kicked that off, that funded it for the first 2 years. 20 years later, it's still a 20-year-old program, and still operating, and very successful, high return on investment. And then we went around with North Carolina in partnership, and we helped a number of other states get their tech team, tech mentor team set up as part of the SBDC counseling network. And then, and there were several states who did it. I want to say there were almost 20 states that at some point had a tech team, and we saw a number of them come and go, because the only way that they got funded was through their state. Now there's no state that will say that they don't want more technology businesses and more technology startups. And no university will say, you know, we don't want to see more technologies make it to the market. And this was such a critical element in the state where it existed. And one of the things we had done with ASBDC was to work to set up a criteria for accreditation for that T element. That's now going away, because the thinking at the time when it was set up was that the federal government would then realize how valuable the program was, add it on to the SBDC, and then a tech mentor team, which operates very differently from the, I mean, we had personality profiles done of the tech mentors versus traditional mentors, very different personality profiles, different pay scales. And it was a little more autonomous group. I mean, these were all people who had been C-suites in tech companies, early stage tech companies. And so, you know, 20 years later, very successful programs. Some of them are, those that died on the vine died because they lost their state funding over time, not because it wasn't successful. But it would be great to see this become part of the federal package under SBDC, is to be able to operate and manage a tech team. And so coming to Virginia was never one that started that. So I started it, we launched it in January. I have exactly 2 years worth of funding, which means I have 2 years to figure out how to make this sustainable long-term. And it may or may not happen. Or I have 2 years to convince the federal government that this would be really great to start funding tech teams.
Well, I mean, as Brian referenced, there is a lot of funding, at least proposed, for that focus in technology. And so actually one of the things I wanted to bring up, and this gets back to my general introduction of like this new role that I'm in. The SBA fiscal year 22 to 26 strategic plan was also released fairly recently, along with the FY23 president's budget request. And one of the key things, objectives in it, is about building a thriving national innovation ecosystem that promotes investments in all small business communities. And that is specific to our office, the Office of Investment and Innovation. And one of the things that kind of the quotes we like to pull out there is that the influence that the Director of Innovation and Technology, John Williams, was able to have in the strategic plan. He had spent many years saying that, you know, his goal was that the SBA would become as well known for helping innovative startups as the agency is known already for helping Main Street startups. Because many of you may know that, of course, that, and rightly so, the most of the Small Business Administration's focus is on the large number of incredible small businesses that make the economy go, that make our communities rich. And so I just wanted to highlight that, the attention to research, technology, and innovation focused companies is here with this administrator and administration. And there are a lot of efforts that are kind of coming together, I think, right now that make this a really valuable and rich space to be in. And so that's kind of why this position didn't exist before, sort of got created so that we could figure out also, how to do more of this, actually, like learning from each other, right? And building that network, sharing best practices, and then making sure that, the federal government is really interested in ensuring that we're customer centric. And to me, right, my customers are the ecosystem builders, because that's who we're serving, as well as the entrepreneurs that you serve. And so it's kind of both. And I think Brian's point about the difficulties in the application process impact everybody. They're terrible for an entrepreneur who's trying to navigate a federal application process. Also, the ecosystem builders also don't have a lot of resources. You guys are pretty much startups often, as well. And so I often used to talk about on the SBIR side that one of our roles was at SBA, we're working that slow process that exists to change applications and regulations and rules to make it simpler and easier to deal with. But in the meantime, we try to find some workarounds, like prize competitions have a little bit more flexibility than, say, grants or a contract, right? Mechanisms, different funding vehicles. And then the other way that we look for to support is by hopefully being transparent and trying to provide that technical assistance. So I think with the Build Back Better efforts that EDA has done, right, where they're trying to stagger things and actually use some of the funding to provide technical assistance. That was one of the efforts. I think the other kind of broader effort that I did want to talk about is that we're trying within the federal government to coordinate better as well. So some of you may recall the lab to market cross-agency priority goal through the President's Management Agenda, which was started at the end of the Obama administration. It was also part of the presence management agenda during the Trump administration over the last 4 years. And actually, that's also where Brian and I had connected, because I was working at the Office of Science and Technology Policy and helping lead that effort. And so I brought back a lot of that with me to SBA, but it's still an active group of federal agencies who is very committed and interested in figuring out how we can better work together and know what's going on, so that we can communicate it better also, and possibly design things better. So I think one of the great examples is actually with Build Back Better and what EDA is doing with that, and trying to share finalist information more broadly with other agencies who may be able to fund either parts or pick up, possibly fund organizations that won't be an eventual winner. And so trying to figure out, how do we think about that federal capital stack for ecosystem builders that can then, help support all these efforts. I mean, it does make it certainly more complicated, because it's like, well, if you're going to apply to this agency or that agency, we all have different processes. But we are definitely trying, and that's also why we're here and listening and trying to understand how we can support the network and communities of practice. So that was one.
Yeah, Jennifer, it was interesting. So I saw Walter Copan, many of you met. He was the head of NIST, and he was part of that lab to market effort. And I saw him at the UIDP conference in Atlanta, and some of you may know, he's now president of the Colorado School of Mines, which is outside of Boulder near the National Renewable Energy Lab, DOE lab, and they're building an innovation district. So hopefully they're going to join our association. But yeah, that reminded me of that effort of lab to market, and and it started with Obama, and we're moving slowly. And so NSF just announced a new organization, TIP, the Technology Innovation and Partnerships Office, I guess, the directorate, I guess. And so how that's going to be great, I think, for our community, right? And leveraging also what EDA is going to be doing, and Department of Energy. I mean, it seems like every agency is doing some kind of ARPA. NIH is standing up ARPA-H. So there's going to be a lot more use-inspired research, and there's going to be places where that research has to be done. And I think it's going to be an innovation district. So I think you kind of touched on this, but how is, the NSF TIP office, how is that sounds very parallel to what you guys are doing. And is there like an interagency working group?
Yeah, there is actually. So we have, so it's actually still sort of in the same group, not the same agencies are still participating in this lab to market subcommittee. So the National Science and Technology Council, we still have the lab to market subcommittee. There are always, new members and new co-chairs, but many of the same people are still involved. And so I'm actually a co-chair for a strategy team. So we love our organizational structures, right? So, we've got the council, which is like cabinet level, the subcommittees, and then subcommittees. So committees are generally agency heads level, and then the subcommittees are kind of the working groups. But even within our subcommittee on lab to market, there are 5 different subcommittees or 5 different strategy teams across lab to market, because this is really a big, broad space. One is still focused on administrative burdens. And I think that will always be there in regulations, and our group, our strategy team is focused on the innovation ecosystem and innovation ecosystem engagement. And so that is, very directly, we're very much trying to learn. And so one of the things, well, I'll tell you about our group. A couple of other the other groups that are within us are communications. So trying to also help people understand, what is technology transfer, or have some shared language across agencies around explaining lab to market. And the idea also that it is beyond just the federal labs intramural tech transfer, but also is kind of the broader vision of all federal R&D. And again, that's where kind of the innovation ecosystem helps support all of it, right? And then the tools and services, as well as kind of thinking about the transitions along the R&D. I think DOE named it, so it's like the RD&D continuum, the research and development, demonstration and deployment continuum. So, but within our innovation ecosystem engagement strategy team, kind of the areas that we're focused on right now are really trying to figure out what that looks like within the federal government. So one of our, a few of our people and these are all across, I think we have 11 to 14 different agencies represented. And thinking about, how maybe a framework for how do people think about their ecosystem from an entrepreneur's lens. So that is ultimately like we go back to who are we all trying to help, right? And so in our focus is actually really on how do we make sure through innovation ecosystem engagement, we can bring in, increase and enhance that equitable access and create more an inclusive innovation ecosystem. So one of the things I want to make sure to invite you all to, there's a whole bunch of events coming up, but May 17th, well, first, we did some customer discovery effort around the engagement of Black and Brown innovators with the SBIR program. So we're trying to keep it tight and narrow. And so we're going to be sharing the results of those findings and having some panels and discussions around practices around supporting Black and Brown innovators. And that will be May 17th. Kind of the IDEA Summit. It's a nice embedded acronym because it's ideas for developing equitable access. And then actually before that, next Monday, the SBA Office of Investment and Innovation, I mentioned the Small Business Investment Company side, is having a diverse and emerging manager forum. So if you're interested in the kind of the venture and investment and later stage investment side of things, I will definitely share information on how to register for that as well. But then hopping back to May 25th, we also have America's Seed Fund Startup Expo. So we're, one of the things that I would probably be remiss if I didn't mention is that the SBIR and STTR programs authorization ends in FY22. And there's currently while there is an amendment included in the House Competes Act version, we don't know what the current status is, but many of the vehicles are they're shrinking in terms. So there is the potential for a lapse in the SBIR and STTR authorizations. But on the other hand, we're celebrating SBIR's 40th anniversary in July. So we're doing a number of things to highlight and celebrate the success of those programs and raise up a lot of the companies and also organizations that are that have made this possible and innovate. And so the week of July 18th, so July 22nd is the 40th anniversary of the SBIR program being signed into law. And we'll be having a week of events, virtual still, but we're hoping to announce our Tibbetts awardees. And so I will put that in the link because the Tibbetts Awards are to nominate the best of the best examples, and both companies as well as organizations who support the SBIR ecosystem. So I strongly encourage you all to check out the nominations. They're due May 4th, and consider nominating yourself, your organization, or some of the companies that you've helped. And so I know I'm kind of rambling a bit, but
So Jennifer, so yeah, Tibbetts is like the #1 award, but I think you're also soliciting from our members ecosystems, companies that have achieved success for using SBIR, STTR funds, right? I mean, and so you want some good stories of some companies, and that's due on May 4th. Is that the deadline?
So that's Tibbetts.
Tibbetts,
and then
okay.
What's coming up even sooner
Yeah.
is actually the America Seed Fund Startup Expo. So what I would say is like Tibbetts is like, these are, Hall of Fame.
That's the best
exemplary-
picture award. Yes.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Now Startup Expo is sort of a more, it's just like, they're probably on their way to Tibbetts, but perhaps these companies might need a little bit of exposure and support to help them get there. And so the Startup Expo is going to be happening May 25th, the actual event. And that is open to the public. It's virtual, it's free, and we definitely would welcome everyone to come join. Right now, we are soliciting companies, recent phase 2 awardees, to submit a nomination. The nomination form is super simple. It's like less than 10 minutes, but the thing that will take a little bit longer is just doing a like 3 to 5 minute video pitch of the company. And that is due this Friday for the startups to apply to. So if you know any, I think they still definitely have time.
Get those cameras going, get that video going.
So please do encourage, positive companies, and it's kind of laid out as a competition, a challenge, but the prize is getting to be one of 12 SBIR awardees who are going to be highlighted on this national stage at the Startup Expo on May 25th. It is something that the White House is very interested in, and they included it in some press release back in February, like, oh, we haven't planned this yet. But anyway, but it's great for, either connecting or, like some of the aims are to highlight these innovative companies as examples of companies that investors may want to help move on to the next stage, but also to connect to potential resources that they need to get to that next stage, which may not be just purely funding, right? I think it will probably be thinking about the different resources that your organizations offer too.
And I just wanted to mention Paula from George Mason put in the chat a copy of the report that I remember they did when she was at the University of Michigan on the Lab to Market, national best practices. A great report. If you haven't looked at it, you definitely want to take a look at that.
Jennifer, just something from the past to point out something that was very favorable and beneficial, particularly in an underrepresented area, not just my own, but in others, was the in-person road tour, and just how high impact that was in terms of having all of the different federal agencies represented on the ground and together, and how powerful that was as ecosystem builders to bring the entrepreneurs and many of the other builders together with the federal program officers was really high impact. And I know that, of course, looking out for the health and safety of our federal employees and all of our friends and entrepreneurs is of the utmost importance. But as we sort of, look towards the future, I would hope that that might be reconsidered as a way to reach some of these other underserved groups, and maybe some of that could help with your objectives to reach additional groups and regions that aren't participating in FAST and other things. So just wanted to comment and say that was a very good thing that we appreciated.
Yeah, and I think we also just like selfishly really enjoyed it as well. It's always good to like meet people on the ground, and so we definitely want to do it in person again. Hopefully next year in 2023. So we're definitely thinking about that, and also how we can balance the virtual reach that we're able to have with the value that comes from bringing people together in person, which I do want to put in a plug, because I will be at the SSTI annual conference in Little Rock, Arkansas from May 2nd to 4th. So if any of you are going to be there, I'd love to catch up in person too. And, you know, just putting little flag pointers also, that if you're not already on our monthly, we have an SBA Innovation Ecosystem Network monthly call. If you really like your acronyms, it'd be like SIENC, so it could almost be science. But our next call is going to be on next Thursday, April 28th. And I'll put the link into the chat to register, but we will be having Eric Smith and Brittany Sickler from EDA coming to talk a bit about the Build to Scale program, that funding opportunity that was just released. It's their largest yet. I think it's about $45 million available. And then some of the communities of practice actually that Brittany is working on supporting at EDA. And I'll also flag that MBDA, the Minority Business Development Agency, also has just put out their call for new minority business centers in specific states. And then NSF TIP, I think their regional innovation, we had our last, so this monthly call is an opportunity we do to bring people to different federal agencies to come talk about new initiatives and programs, and keep people up to date on what's happening on the federal side of things. And I'm looking for here. That's the link. But yeah, are there any questions, other comments about, good, bad, ugly, what you hope to see from the building the innovation ecosystem from the federal side?
So what, I think we know a little bit about Competes and USICA, but what, in terms of the SBA specifically, was there some particular, it's a 2,000-page bill, it's hard to digest everything. Is there something that may pass as part of that? The conference committee has been appointed, and I assume sometime before September, maybe the conference committee will report out, we'll see. But is there some potential new program or increase in funding for your ecosystem development as part of that?
No. So that's the short, quick answer. Okay. And I think the primary reason really is because it's very focused on research and development. And I think, and I guess maybe I'll end with this, which is why I think that our office within SBA has been really focused on it, and probably very well aligned with you and your member organizations, right, and your fellow university research parks, is that bringing together of the research and development side with the economic development side, right? Because SBA as a whole, as an agency, does not think about or focus on science and innovation, research and development.
Right.
But we bring that perspective in for all of the agencies that do. And so what I'd say is that's where the lab to market group is really trying to do a better job of bringing together the agencies and the different offices within agencies that think about this and how we can learn from each other and work collaboratively and then communicate things better, so that it's not quite so confusing. But yeah, and so I really I want to, I guess, end by saying thank you. Thank you for the work that all of you do. And I'm really excited to get to do more working with you.
Great. Well, Vicki or Diana, we're going to close out here. And thank you, Jennifer. I know how hard you work, and I will see you in Arkansas and hopefully some of the rest of you. And I hope to see some of you in Delaware and in San Diego in June.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much, Jennifer. We do have some housekeeping remarks just for some future events. As Brian said, AURP and Biohealth Caucus are coming up. Registration is open. We have the links in the chat, and it's also online, as well as on Tuesday, May 3rd, we have our AURP communicator check-in, which is just a round table. And then Wednesday, May 4th, we have our National Science Foundation is going to be coming on the AURP peer-to-peer meeting, 2 p.m. Eastern, to discuss their new regional tech hub program. So be sure to look out for reminder emails and the link for that. And I think that's it for some new events that are coming up soon. Vicki, do you have anything else?
No, I was just going to say thank you for everybody joining us today. And Jennifer, thank you so much. This was so much information and helps us to promote the power of our parks and innovation district. So thank you very much for partnering with us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.